For most patients, a single trip to the emergency room provides them with relief from their symptoms and answers to their medical questions. However, for 20-year-old Sinead Smith from Brighton, England, the journey was much, much longer. In fact, Smith found herself in the ER on over 200 occasions and experiencing excruciating pain that sometimes left her doubled over and barely able to move. And the majority of those visits left doctors unable to provide her with a diagnosis. But at the beginning of 2016, she finally got her long-delayed answer. After all, Smith's battle for better health began at just 11 years of age. That's when she began her monthly cycle of anguish, according to her blog. "I was such a young girl going through unbearable pain," she wrote. "I couldn't even put into words the pain I'd feel." The inexplicable aches often even prevented the preteen from going to school, a trend that continued into her teenage and adult years. "It's so crippling you cannot move from the same position," she explained. "I'd be stuck rolled up in a ball for hours on end." Just 2 years later, Smith started taking birth control pills on her doctor's advice. The pills were expected to alleviate some of the pain, but they didn't have the intended effect. Instead, she continued to suffer throughout years and years of never-ending pain and thousands of trips to the doctors and ER with no help in the slightest. As I got older and went to the doctors at like 16, 17, they'd actually tell me, "Are you sure it's not all in your head? Because if you think you're in pain, then your body will feel like you're in pain." Smith subsequently told the BBC, "I remember thinking, you know what? I do, and I know what my body is. They don't." So at the age of 18, Smith visited a sexual health clinic instead. There, doctors gave her another diagnosis: pelvic inflammatory disease, or PID, an infection of the female reproductive system that can be cured with antibiotics. After her first round of medication, though, Smith reported that her pain remained as excruciating as ever. Her doctors then tested Smith for sexually transmitted diseases, but her results were always clear. So they continued to treat her with antibiotics, which left Smith feeling exhausted. "I can still remember how drained and poorly they made me feel," she wrote. After a 16-week stint on medication, Smith's doctors finally accepted that she did not have PID. They consequently sent her to see a consultant who scheduled a laparoscopy so that doctors examined the inside of Smith's body. She added on her blog, "I can still feel that relief of maybe finally figuring out what was wrong with me." When she came to, she at least had her answer, and it was an unexpected one. Smith told the Daily Mail what the medical consultant said to her. "You have something called endometriosis. We found and removed 3 parts of it from your pelvis." Although she knew very little about the disorder at the time, she still thought that her pain would automatically go away. However, endometriosis is unfortunately a chronic condition. It causes the tissue that's typically found on the surface of the uterus to grow elsewhere in the body. There, the tissue continues to act like uterine lining, becoming thicker and eventually breaking down each month. But because it's outside of the uterus, it can't be expunged as it's supposed to be. This excess tissue can have a host of painful side effects depending on where it grows. If it takes root near the ovaries, for example, it can create cysts. In other cases, it will become irritated and turn into scar tissue, which is another source of discomfort. Some women are also unable to become pregnant because of the condition. Smith told the Daily Mail that her doctor didn't tell her any of this. "I had no idea it was a recurring illness and the pain was back just 3 months later," she said. Even more upsetting to her were the potential options for treating her endometriosis. Her doctors initially told her that a hysterectomy was the only potential cure, but she refused to accept that as an option. "I want to have a family one day, so having a hysterectomy isn't an option for me right now, and I don't think it ever will be," Smith explained. And Smith was equally surprised when another doctor later suggested that she do the opposite. "At the age of just 18, I was told to get pregnant to help alleviate her pain. I'm single, and being told that as a teenager hit me like a rock, as it showed there's little real hope for anyone diagnosed," she said. In the absence of any effective treatment, Smith had lost 2 jobs for seeming unreliable while suffering from daily pain. "My employers didn't understand," she said. "They looked at me as if I was lying because I didn't physically look unwell. Anyone who does not understand it calls it a bad period." Smith also revealed on her blog that only 20% of the public have heard of her disorder, compared to an 80% familiarity with diabetes. This lack of endometriosis awareness was especially surprising for her because it affects so many people. Indeed, the Endometriosis Foundation of America estimates that 176 million women worldwide, including approximately 1 in 10 women in the US, suffer from the condition. So Smith decided to do something about it. One night she used a social media post to reach other endometriosis sufferers and raise awareness of the condition. By morning, Smith had hundreds of messages from women all over the globe expressing their gratitude, she told the Daily Mail. The sheer amount of attention that she received was another wake-up call for Smith. I was in complete and utter shock, she admitted. I was speechless. It wasn't just me who was suffering from this horrendous illness. From there, Smith started a blog in which she details her experiences with endometriosis. And she also runs 2 support groups for those suffering from the disorder. If we all stand together against this awful condition, then we'll help others understand, and hopefully no other women will feel alone in this fight, Smith said. She also advised others to look on the bright side of things no matter how hard they struggled. One small positive thought in the morning can honestly change your whole day, she added. A negative mind will never give you a positive life.